book fans and Stephen King fans. I am back here to do an update on my Stephen King book collection, an overview of the entire collection, at least of the books. All right, so one of the very first videos that I did on my channel was an overview of my Stephen King book collection, where I laid them all out and I just randomly panned the camera over all of them, simply mentioning them. They weren't even in publication order or anything like that. I hope to do better this time. I'm going to do them in what I believe is publication order, and I am going to put down here the title, the year. Also on the second row will be the edition that I have, and what year that edition came out, like the publishing house and which edition it is, if I have that information, so that I can have this video be much more complete than the last one. Not to mention that I have a lot more books now than I did when I did that first video. Of course, I have been doing Stephen King updates since then, but let's get to it. All right, so it's the first book. It is Carrie. Okay, this is the movie tie-in edition for the what would have been the third adaptation. The first one was with Sissy Spacek. The second one was a little known made for TV one, and this was the third. Okay, very short book, to the point. I have it twice, in fact. I also have it in a Spanish language edition, even though the one I read was the English one. Okay, I simply really like that cover. Then with one of my favorite novels, okay, it is Salem's Lot, which I have read, but not in this edition. The one I read was a Spanish language edition. Okay, I live in Mexico, so some of these will be in Spanish language editions, though most of them are, the grand majority are in English. This is the Salem's Lot, the illustrated edition, illustrated with some photos that are there to set the mood. Now for The Shining, with this god-awful cover. It does include newly introduced by the author, where he talks about a little bit about his dislike for the Stanley Kubrick film. All right, but great novel nonetheless. Two editions of The Stand, which are the original edition here, which this is the one I read, and the complete and uncut edition, which I have here in this hardcover, which I believe may be a book club edition. But anyway, The Stand. I have not read this one. With the next batch here, we have The Dead Zone, fantastic novel. Also Firestarter, which I have not read. I'm also going to link at the end of this video, and also on the bottom, a link to my Stephen King TBR, the books that I have not yet read, which is, this one is one of them. Okay. Firestarter, I have read this one. Christine, here, with a rather boring cover. There are editions with better covers. The Talisman, together with Peter Straub. Holy crap, this is a chunker of a book, okay? And not very good, I'm afraid. I will also link down below my review for this one. A classic of horror, one of Stephen King's most popular books, which is It. This is the edition, the paperback edition that I read back in the day. And later, when the remake came out, I bought another edition, this hardback edition. Okay, which I also read. So I have read it twice, in this edition and in this edition. Okay, so of course, now that I'm much older, I did appreciate the cleaner and larger font size right here. We now go with his science fiction book here, The Tommyknockers. All right, haven't read this, though I have seen the miniseries. The Dark Half, where he talks a bit about his experiences, being Richard Bachman. And by the way, at the end of the video, I'm going to put the Richard Bachman books. Okay, The Dark Half. Just to clarify about The Dark Half, which is not about his experiences as Richard Bachman, as if it was a nonfiction book. It is a novel about an author that has writes under a pen name, and that pen name supernaturally comes to life. So it's kind of inspired by his experience, the Stephen King's own experience of having a pseudonym. Needful Things. A thick book, as are many Stephen King books. Okay. Gerald's Game. One that I did not particularly care for. It was good, just okay. This one is, in fact, the companion to this next one, which is Dolores Claiborne, which I did not like. If I were to make a list of my least favorite Stephen King books, this one would be right at the top. Insomnia, which lightly ties in with the Dark Tower series. And by the way, I'm also going to put those at the end of the video. Okay, Insomnia. This is not the edition that I read. Well, it is and it isn't. I did read an edition that is exactly like this one, but the one I had got moldy, so I bought it again in the same edition. Insomnia. Rose Matter, another one that's on my TBR. Hardcover. The Green Mile, which here I have my Spanish language edition, and they are in these individual short books, which I bought as they came out in publication order at the newsstand back when those things existed. I think they came out every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks I was there buying one more until I got to the full story. A very interesting way of reading things, which harkens back to the very old ways, like back in the days of the Three Musketeers, for example, or some of the Charles Dickens novels, where they would come out little by little, periodically. Okay, I also have this in an English language form, compiled here with the movie tie-in cover. That's Tom Hanks right there. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Haven't read this yet. Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub, the sequel to The Talisman. Haven't read this one either. After the bad taste in my mouth for The Talisman, I don't know when I'm going to get to it. One that I have read, and which is pretty good. From a Buick 8, a bit of a misunderstood novel. A lot of people think this is kind of like Christine, because it does feature a car, a Buick. Let's see if we can see it right there. But this is not a killer car. It has nothing to do with Christine. The plot is nothing like Christine. So, okay, from a Buick 8, a completely different story. And a rather original story. An exploration about the meaning of mysteries and all. Likewise with this one, the Colorado Kid. Okay, with that fantastic retro cover. Love it. Okay. Also an examination about mysteries. Not exactly solving them, just an exploration of, how we deal with them. The Colorado Kid. And Cell. Right there with that, by now, rather outdated cell phone. And your number is up. This is Stephen King going into his B-movie phase. Okay? Combining a bit of the zombie genre here. But not exactly zombies, but kind of. All right? A rather odd and introspective novel, a Duma Key. Okay? Kind of hard to describe this one, but it is pretty good. Duma Key. Not a lot of people talk about that one. A lot of people do talk about this one, not in a good way, Under the Dome. Okay, with its rather ridiculous premise, a city trapped under a dome. When the Simpsons movie came out with the exact same plot, this it became almost laughable. Not to mention, this has one of the most worst endings of all. Like it's like a non-ending one that is a step above the last one, which is 11/22/63, his time travel novel. Okay, very personal novel here for Stephen King. You can tell that he's really reminiscing about that era, that mid to early to mid '60s, right here. Really good, really good. Another that I absolutely love, Joyland. Okay, because it combines the mystery, the supernatural, and the amusement parks. I am totally sold. Love the cover as well, that retro cover. Joyland by Stephen King. Great stuff. The sort of sequel to The Shining, which is Doctor Sleep. Okay, I say sort of because this is really, I'm not going to say a standalone novel because you do need to know the backstory of The Shining. However, it is its own story with its own set of heroes and villains. Okay, and that Rosa Hat is a great villain. Doctor Sleep. His crime novel, Mr. Mercedes, very good. I have not yet read Finders Keepers and End of Watch because at first I was, stubbornly wanting to get the hardcover ones, that so that they would match, But right now I'm not really that interested. I am interested in the books, just not. They don't have to match. I just get them in any edition. The other ones, I have read Mr. Mercedes, very good. Even better, much better, Revival, a book that few people talk about. Even though to me it is probably his best of the latter day novels. Revival, really like this one. Stephen King goes where H.P. Lovecraft kind of feared to tread, because King, let's face it, is the much better writer. All right, so has a bit of a Lovecraftian feel to it, but Stephen King ups the ante and takes it up a notch, several notches. Haven't read this one. Okay, with Owen King, Sleeping Beauties, and it is a chunker. The reviews are mostly bad, especially because it has that modern day feminist slant to it. And what makes it even worse, it's modern day feminism with written by men, And I suspect that is much to do with Owen King and less with Stephen King. The Outsider, King's, as of the making of this video, his last real horror novel. Okay, so here we have The Outsider. Really good. Really liked it. I think it could have gone a little bit more with the horror, but very good. Great characters as well. Elevation. I don't know what to say about this one. Kind of like, Stephen King kind of talking about his own personal politics, which are not that interesting, let's say it. The story just kind of goes nowhere. One that I did like was Later by Stephen King here. And it is a crime story, a ghost story, and a horror story as well. Very, very good. Also love that retro cover. Later by Stephen King. Let's go with the Dark Tower books. I have not read the series. I have only read the first two, being The Gunslinger. This was the original, well, not the first edition, but the original text for The Gunslinger. It was later revised and which is this is what you get now. Okay, I have read both versions. I have also read The Drawing of the Three, and that's where I kind of lost, you know, the thread. I have not read the subsequent books, even though I do have Wolves of the Calla here in this nice hardcover. The Dark Tower 5. Now let's go to the short story and novella collections, okay? So I'm going to edit this part so I can get them in the right order. This was his first collection of short stories, Night Shift. I have here this book club edition where the dust jacket has seen better days, but it's still very readable. Okay, right there it says by the author of Carrie and The Shining. So he was just getting started right there as a horror writer. Skeleton Crew. All right. A lot of very well-known ones in here. Skeleton Crew. A collection of 4 novellas. It is 4 past midnight. Okay. These have been, a few of these have been turned into movies as well. 4 past midnight. Collection of short stories, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Right there. The author on the back cover. Hearts in Atlantis, okay? A collection of short stories and essays regarding the 60s, right there. Hearts in Atlantis. Everything's Eventual. Okay, very good compendium of short stories. Just After Sunset. Another collection of short stories. These are some hit and miss, but most are pretty damn good. Full Dark, No Stars. All right, a collection of novellas, and all of them are winners. Really like this one. Some of them have been turned into movies, some pretty damn good movies. Even though I do wish I had the original hardcover edition for this because it has a much better cover. I'm going to put that cover over here on the side. The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. Collection of short stories. Right there. Pretty cool cover. This one collects some stuff that hadn't been collected before, you know, that had, but I mean, or rather stuff that had been printed before in other compilations or in magazines, okay, along with a lot of original stuff. As of the making of this video, I believe this is his latest one, which is If It Bleeds, another collection of novellas. I only got this one, so I haven't read it yet. There are 3 Stephen King novels that I have read, but are not shown in this video. The first is Pet Sematary, which I read in a Spanish language edition, but I no longer have it. Misery, which was lent to me by a friend, and Eyes of the Dragon, which is my sister's copy. One of the very early stories published by Stephen King before he was famous, you know, when he was writing for magazines, specifically men's magazines like Cavalier. This is the only one I have. And here, this one features the Boogeyman that is in the magazine. I will be careful to open it only to the page that has the story. There it is. Okay, this was, of course, later compiled in one of his short story collections. Now for the Richard Bachman books, when he was writing under that name. And of these, the only ones I have read is A Thinner, right there, by Richard Bachman. A.K.A. Stephen King, Blaze, which is one of the very, very early novels, I believe, that was later published. Here in this nice hardcover. This is a crime novel, I believe. And, of course, he's most well known for these 4, which are the Bachman books. 4 early novels by Stephen King, which are Rage, The Long Walk, the running road work and the running man. And the long walk, I actually have it twice here and also in this Spanish language edition called La Larga Marcha. Okay, have not gotten around to these yet as well. We'll end this video with two non-fiction books by Stephen King. The first one being Danse Macabre, right there here, where he does an exploration of the horror genre in literature and in movies. Okay, a lot of great recommendations here for the books and movies, even though this is very, very outdated. I believe this one came out in the 80s. Okay, but still, a lot of great stuff to read and watch here from Stephen King's recommendations, as well as his very insightful views on the genre that he knows so well. And Stephen King on writing, where he talks about his writing process, a memoir of the craft. Curiously enough, wordy as Stephen King is with his very long books, this one is in fact rather to the point. Okay, so On Writing by Stephen King. There you go. That is up to now my Stephen King book collection. I don't have them all. I haven't read them all, even though I have read the grand majority of them. Okay, I still have a few that I want, like the Regulators and Desperation being two examples. Thank you very much for watching. Keep reading.